Alright, so, I decided, just for the hell of it, to do a review of Green Lantern Emerald Twilight. This is, of course, the story that pretty much was the end of Hal Jordan as Green Lantern and the start of Kyle Rayner for Green Lantern, which then, of course, led to eventual rebirth, but they didn't really have a plan of that. Speaking of not having a plan, let me give you some knowledge of how Emerald Twilight came to pass. Now, keep in mind that at the time, Superman Rebirth was, Superman Returns, or the Return of Superman, is in full effect. It's happening, but at the same time, the Green Lantern writers are like, yeah, we can do something big and, game-changing for Superman, for our character, Green Lantern, but the biggest thing the writer at the time had for issue 50 and building up to it was Guardians from another universe come in and pretend to be the actual Guardians, and Hal doesn't know which is which. To which the editorial group went, that fucking sucks, you're fired, and put Ron Mars. After, keep in mind, that the entire story of Emerald Twilight was created over a weekend. The entire plot line was created over a weekend, and then the Green Lantern editorial went over and handed the story to Ron Mars to write out. I'm not even joking, guys. It was made in under a weekend, and it shows. In 3 issues, well, I guess you could say 6 if you count the first 3 parts of the Kyle Rayner era, which is, I will give it this, is that rather than, after the end of issue 50, when Hal Jordan becomes Parallax and, Kyle gets the ring, it's like, don't miss the renumbering of Green Lantern with the all-new, all-different Green Lantern #1. Something they would do in this day and age. No, they're like, no, if you want to read the rest of it, go read issue 51. That's a new start. There's our new start. There you go. I thought that was kind of funny that, Green Lantern, rather than just renumber the issues, they're just like, no, your #1 is issue 51. Go check that out. But yeah. So for those who are unaware, which I'm pretty sure a lot of people, even, a majority of DC fans know about this story, but if you don't, the story is that after Cyborg, Superman, and Mongol, during the events of the Return of Superman, or was it Reign of the Superman, whatever, it was during the Death of Superman huge story arc. And what had happened was, during that time, Mongol wanted to create a new war world, and in doing so, he destroyed Coast City. While this is going on, Hal had been recently named the greatest Green Lantern of all. The greatest Green Lantern of all, and his city was completely destroyed, and that really got to him. Which is funny, because him and Green Arrow had this moment of, hey man, it wasn't your fault, and Hal's like, yeah, I guess it was. And then the next issue destroys everything about that character building with him and Oliver. And Hal, after trying to create a construct city, because he's going completely out of his mind, which, justifiably, his hometown and the city he swore to protect, outside of his duties as a Green Lantern, was more or less just nuked out of existence by an alien madman, so he's justifiably trying to handle his grief. But in doing so, the Guardians come to Hal and say, hey, you're no longer a Green Lantern because you did this out of personal gain. You've broken a rule of the Green Lanterns, and you are now no longer a Green Lantern. Which, by the way, I've said this once, I'll say it again, fuck the Guardians. Just fuck them. Because they're like, hey, they could have easily said, Hal, we're going to take the ring away from you for a little bit and let you deal with this. And when you're ready, imagine, more or less like a cop getting suspended, or a someone getting suspended without pay, like a cop getting suspended without pay, or something to that degree. They could have just gone, hey Hal, I know you're hurting, so we're gonna take this ring and give it back to you when you're mentally all there. But nope, the Guardians, being the smurf fuckheads that they are, decide, nope, no longer a Green Lantern, even though you are called the greatest Green Lantern of all time, saved the galaxy more than once, and, had this horrible tragedy just happen to you. Yeah, we're gonna take your ring away. So Hal of course, by doing so, Hal goes nuts and fights his way through several Green Lanterns, most of whom he had either brought in or were best friends with, and stole their rings and fought his way to Oa, which is, yeah, in one way you could look at it that, yeah, it clearly shows that in 3 issues, because Hal goes full villain in the next issue. He just goes full-on villain in the next issue, and, a lot of these a lot of the Lanterns like, no, I'm loyal to the core. No one was like, hey, I know you're hurting about Coast City, or no one's like, hey, screw the Guardians, you're totally right. So, but no, everyone's like, oh, I'm loyal to the Guardians of Oa, I'm loyal to the core. Even Kilowog's like that. And eventually, he gets to Oa to fight Sinestro, which, in Green Lantern, in Jeff Johns' Green Lantern, of explaining how he survived getting his, neck broke, is complete bullshit. Yeah, a hard-like construct created by Parallax that was puppeteered by Sinestro. Yeah, that was how Jeff Johns got around, basically, Sinestro surviving having his neck broke. But I will admit that issue 50, other than, oh, which are the real Guardians, a cool little send-off to Hal Jordan of having his final fight with Sinestro, that's a really cool thing, that's a really cool idea. And of course it led to Parallax, which led to Zero Hour, which we all want to forget about Zero Hour, And it gave us Kyle Rayner, which I really dig Kyle. I really like Kyle Rayner as a character. And it really shows that he is really, no pun intended, green around the gills in his first story with fighting Mongol. And, he had to go get Superman to help him out. And he was such a vastly different character. He was like, he was just chosen on a whim by Ganthet, who gave him this new all-powerful ring, and it was just like, I guess you'll have to do. Yeah, a guy who is an architect, and as Grant Morrison would say in Justice League New World Order, a manga nut with a power ring. So, yeah, and it makes sense. Like, that's a cool idea of a guy who has a vast imagination and give him a weapon that is powered by your willpower, and your only limitation is your imagination, which Kyle Rayner had an abundance of. Yeah. But all in all, Emerald Twilight is looked back on by a lot of Green Lantern fans as like this massive epic story. But when you looking back on it, there are some cool elements, like I said. The quote-unquote final fight between Hal and Sinestro is really cool. But on a whole, it clearly shows that this comic was written, the entire idea of this comic was written over a very long weekend. And it, like I said, it clearly shows that these guys just wanted to crank this out for the sake of, hey, let's do something new and different with Green Lantern, and not think about the big picture. But yeah, of course, like I said, this is looking back, this is a lot of ground zero for a lot of what Jeff Johns would eventually move on to do. And keep in mind, that was years before Jeff Johns even got popular and all that. So, this was, Emerald Twilight's, I don't know if I'd call it essential Green Lantern reading. Actually, no, if you want to start reading, before the Jeff Johns' Green Lantern run, you would probably need to read, Emerald Twilight. That's kind of the big thing, is that you don't really have to read anything else. Well, the Neil Adams, Green Arrow, Green Lantern comics, those are really good. But, yeah, this is kind of required reading if you want to, start off before with Green Lantern Rebirth and all that. So anyway, you guys tell me in the comments below if you've read Emerald Twilight. What did you guys think of it? Did you guys like it? Did you guys hate it? Comment below, let me know. And once again, hope you all enjoyed this review, and I will see you guys later.